I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, and I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now we're careening towards a historic performance for a Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen in 6 decades.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America, welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. I've said in previous shows that I don't rely on polling this early in an election cycle to tell me who's going to win or lose an election. We are way too far out to discuss that. But polls are useful at this point to look at trends in the electorate, to assess strengths and weaknesses of each candidate, and for campaigns to be informed about where to mount their resources, what population should they go to, what places should they go to, things like that. Well, if the recent polling numbers put out this week are any indication, there should be full-blown panic among Democrats, among Joe Biden supporters, and certainly among pollsters who are seeing numbers that they haven't seen in 60 years, especially when it comes to a voting bloc of voters that Democrats take for granted. What do I mean by this? Well, we're going to discuss this in this video. But before we do, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you see in here in this or any other video on the channel, I'm going to ask you guys to please, respectfully, in the nicest way possible, smash that thumbs up button, like, comment, share the show with your friends, all the good stuff that we like for you to do, because all that is going to feed the YouTube algorithm. As always, thank you guys so much for all that you do to help grow the channel. You know I appreciate it, especially this week, because we hit that 2,000 subscriber mark. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. And because we hit that magic number, we're going to have a video later in the week discussing all the fun we're going to have in the days, weeks, and months to come with the channel and how the channel is going to be expanding. And for all you newbies out there that want to get in on this fun, I hope you consider subscribing to the channel after this video where we discuss the latest poll numbers informing both the Trump and the Biden campaigns on what they need to do, what their strengths and weaknesses are. And I think what you're going to see with Trump is that the numbers are showing optimism for what a Trump presidency could be beyond this election. And for Biden, there is a glaring weakness that the campaign must address with a crucial Democratic voting bloc. Okay, first things first, let's talk about voter enthusiasm. CBS did a poll asking people, if your candidate wins, do you think that things will get better, worse, or remain the same once they're in office? Let's go through the Biden numbers first.
If Joe Biden wins, do people think his policies will make things better for? Here are some key Democratic groups, right?
So let's go through this before Mr. Salvato here goes through the numbers and gives his opinion. So we see for young people, it looks like that's the greatest margin of people who think things will get better under a Biden administration, 59 to 32 for the same. For white people, it looks like white people are saying that things will remain the same under a Biden administration. I don't know what to make of that. Why are you voting for if you think things are going to be status quo and not get better with that vote? Very interesting. Maybe they think that things can only remain the same because things are pretty good right now.
White people. Amen. White people.
For Hispanics that we can see here, the numbers are plus 15 for better. And if Mr. Salvato would move his hand, I know from watching the video prior to recording this that it's plus 20 among black people in general. Now, it's not broken down by age when we're talking about the ethnicity of the voter. So keep that in mind as we go forward in the video as a whole.
And by and large, if you're voting for Joe Biden, yeah, maybe this isn't a big surprise. You, by and large, think that things will be better for young people as opposed to the same, certainly not worse in your mind, right? For black voters, they think things will be better, a majority. But take a look at this if you're voting for Donald Trump. If you're for Trump, you think things are going to be better for just about every group that we listed. And
now let's look at the numbers for Trump. We see a much wider margin between people saying things are going to get better versus remaining the same. It's almost 50% in some cases. For young people, it's 71-27, a much wider margin than Biden had. Same thing for white people, 50 points there. Even for black people, it's about 40 points or so, and the same for Hispanics. This is showing there is greater enthusiasm and greater optimism for a Trump presidency after the 2024 election from his electorate. This is important, in my opinion, because I think highly motivated voters that are optimistic and enthused about their candidate show up in greater numbers at the polls because they want to effectuate that change for the better that they believe is going to happen. This is a good sign for the Trump campaign.
By very sizable numbers. Better for young people, better for Hispanic voters, better for black voters, etc. This is important, Weege, because I want to go back to the Biden numbers here. I think I'm going to keep an eye on these, especially things like, will things be better as opposed to just the same for some of those key groups like young people? Let's see if those better numbers can go up a little higher, too, because that's what people are going to see as a transactional thing for their vote. Do things get better for them like that, Weege?
Now, as I said in the opening, these numbers are great for now, for this month, for a few weeks going forward. You have to keep monitoring this. But what we're seeing right now as we head into the summer before election season, the numbers are favoring Trump not only among these demographics for enthusiasm, but it looks like Trump is actually eating away at a crucial voting bloc for Democrats and for Joe Biden. And we're going to talk about that right after the break. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. We now turn our focus specifically towards the black vote. It's a crucial voting bloc that Democrats rely upon, and they've been winning handily for decades now. I think in 2020, Biden beat Trump like plus 80 among African-American voters. But Trump is trying to make inroads with those voters. He had a rally in Michigan. He had the rally in the Bronx, in the People's Republic of New York City. And this poll should tell us whether or not Trump is making any inroads with this voting bloc. As you watch, listen to the panic coming from Harry Enten, CNN's number cruncher.
Over the weekend, a direct push from Donald Trump to pick up support among black voters, an historically Democratic voting bloc. CNN senior data reporter Harry Enten is with us. So where does the race stand among African-American voters right now?
Yeah, I keep looking for this to change, to go back to a historical norm, and it simply put has not yet. So this is the margin, or Biden and Trump among black voters, compare where we were at this point in 2020, compare where we are now. You know, at this point, look at this. In 2020, Joe Biden was getting 86% of the African-American vote. Look at where it is now. It's 70%. That's a 16-point drop, John. And more than that, it's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground, it's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. You go from 7%, single digits at this point in 2020, to now 21%. And again, John, I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, and I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now we're careening towards a historic performance for a Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen in 6 decades.
Now, I want to point out one thing. Obviously, the hyperbole and the panic in this guy's voice is palpable. But one thing you may not notice on the screen right now, right under that 21% that Donald Trump is getting right now, you'll see the words aggregated polls. This isn't just one poll. They're looking at all of the relevant polls out there about the black vote in this race. It's not just one poll saying it. It's multiple polls saying that Joe Biden is losing the support of the black community and Donald Trump is gaining it. This indeed is historic when it comes to presidential races. You don't see numbers like this for a Republican in a presidential race ever, at least not in my lifetime.
Very surprising turn of events.
When you dig into this number here, what is the makeup of that number?
This is where we get very interesting. So I decided to dive deeper into the crosstabs, figure out where is it that Joe Biden is truly struggling among black voters. All right, so this is black voters, Biden versus Trump margin. Look at black voters age 50 and older, and you'll see, look, Joe Biden was leading amongst this group at this point by 83 points back in 2020. Now, it's 74 points. So yeah, a slight decline in that margin, but nothing out of this world. Look at black voters under the age of 50. Holy cow, folks. Holy cow. Look at this. Joe Biden was up 80 points among this group back at this point in 2020. Look at where that margin has careened down towards. It's now just, get this, 37 points. That lead has dropped by more than half.
Shit, that's huge.
I think there's a reason for this drop among African-American voters that are under the age of 50, 18 to 49, basically.
Flashback.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
End of flashback.
And I think that they feel neglected by the Biden administration. There's been a specific focus on migrants, especially in the news over the past couple of years. But what has Joe Biden done for young African-American voters?
What have you done for me lately?
You know what? Let's make this the topic of the day. What has Joe Biden done for young African-American voters to convince them that he should get their vote again? Let's talk about that in the comments together, but let's continue watching the panic, the hyperbole of these careening numbers for Joe Biden.
Berman, I just never seen anything like this. I'm like speechless, because you always look at history and you go, okay, this is a historic moment. If this polling is anywhere near correct, we're looking at a historic moment right now where black voters under the age of 50, which have historically been such a big part of the Democratic coalition, are leaving it in droves.
That is a huge drop over a 4-year period, at least right now. All right, what's the impact of third-party candidacies here? Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah, all right, so obviously we have third-party candidates this year with the two major party candidates being so disliked. All right, so this is black voters, Biden versus Trump in the battleground states. This was according to a poll last month from the New York Times, Siena College. Again, looks very similar to what we see nationally, right? Joe Biden at 63, a very poor position for a Democratic candidate. Donald Trump at 23%. If we add Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to this, look where Joe Biden drops to.
You sound stressed.
Less than half the vote among black voters, less than half the vote among black voters in the battleground states. Donald Trump drops as well to 14%, so not quite nearly as historic. But look at this, RFK with 11%. You basically have a legitimate sort of three-way race here. Yeah, Joe Biden well ahead, but with less than 50% of the vote. John, I never thought I would see something like this among black voters.
And for those questioning who Robert Kennedy would hurt more, at least in these numbers in this measurement right here, Biden loses 14, Trump loses 9. So it's clearly Joe Biden.
It's exactly right. It seems to me this is, yes, it's partially a artifact of Donald Trump perhaps being better liked among black voters, but it's also a real artifact of Joe Biden being significantly less liked among black voters than he was 4 years ago.
We got a real problem.
Man, Joe Biden cannot afford to drop to these low numbers in battleground states, especially battlegrounds like Georgia and other places that have a significant African-American population. If this is what they're seeing now, and this trend continues on, Joe Biden is in for a real October surprise. Brace for impact for Joe Biden. Before any Trump supporters start popping any bubbly, these numbers come with a huge asterisk because we're in June. We are nowhere near November right now. We have an entire summer to get through. People are not paying attention to politics as much in the summer as they do, let's say, after Labor Day, when people start looking to see who is going to earn their vote. What we can say is that the messaging for Joe Biden is clear. He better get on every college campus and start looking towards every African-American voter 18 to 49 and start trying to restore their faith in him, because they're not turning out for him right now. It seems like Donald Trump's message is resonating with them. I don't know if it's because that he's showing that Biden is focused more on migrants than he is the African-American community, or if they're empathizing with all the lawfare and the targeting by Democrats of Donald Trump in criminal matters in New York, in Georgia, in Florida, in D.C., and all that. I can't tell you exactly what the reason is, but what I can tell you is that these numbers should strike the fear of God in Joe Biden, because without this crucial voting bloc in these battleground states, especially those states in the South, Joe Biden is in for a rude awakening come November if the trend remains the same.
No one's that excited.
Then get excited.
Now for Trump, the message is clear. Keep on keeping on. Keep making inroads with communities that don't traditionally vote Republican, and keep that enthusiasm high so that your voters remain optimistic for what the future holds when you become president.
Stay the course.
So that's my opinion on these poll numbers and sort of reading the tea leaves here. I want to know what you guys think. Let's get into the comments together. And as always, like and share the video with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. Let's talk about these poll numbers and whether or not I'm reading the tea leaves right, or maybe you have some better ideas as to what's going on behind these numbers. Let's discuss it and all the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.